Well, hey everyone, this is the first week of seventh grade science. We're basically just trying to get a little bit of an introduction into some, scientific method, variables, things like that. This is my first attempt at a screencast-o-matic here, so we'll see how this all goes. Never tried recording myself with PowerPoint up, but hey, first time for everything, right? We live and learn. You'll notice that this page that I have in front of me here is a little bit different than the one that you see in the notes that are online. Basically, we have this first page that I'm just kind of clicking into at the moment here. It's got all the steps in the scientific method. We'll go through those as we kind of go through this slideshow here, but you can just kind of read through those. You start with an observation, do a little bit of research with that. Then you kind of ask a question about what you've observed in the world. Next comes formulating your hypothesis, making some predictions, and then carrying out your actual experiment. Finally, you're going to collect and analyze the results from that experiment. We'll talk about the types of things you can get from that, numbers, observations, those types of things. And then finally, you come to the conclusion. Basically, you're looking back your hypothesis, whether or not you're accepting or rejecting that, and then deciding if you have to do some more experiments there. And most of the time, you are going to do some more experiments, to be honest with you. All right. So kind of the way that these notes are set up here, these variable notes, you've got that little worksheet that goes along with those, and there is a little video on how to do your split screen on your iPad. If you want to look at this on one screen, be filling in the notes on the other screen, that works fantastic. So either watching this video or kind of working through the PowerPoint that's in Canvas by yourself. Okay, so this little experiment is kind of an example. Eventually, we'll get into some of the terminology as we go, but talks about our guy John here watching his grandmother baking bread. And grandma knows that it's fermentation, that yeasts are feeding on the sugar and releasing carbon dioxide in order to make the bread poof up and to make it rise. We'll talk a little bit more about fermentation later in the year, but this just kind of gives us a starting point for our little experiment there. Okay, so asking a question. What is the problem here? So John's wondering if the amount of sugar used in the recipe will affect the size of the loaf of bread. Okay, seems like a good idea. We want more bread. Maybe if we throw some more sugar in there, we'll get a bigger, poofier loaf of bread. Um, Here's our little tribute to our English teacher. So Ms. Cox hopefully will appreciate this being in here. Just be careful how you use the terms effect and affect. Effect is a noun, affect is a verb. It gives a couple examples there. The effect of sugar amounts on the rising of bread, or how does sugar affect the rising of bread? That's not even a sentence right there. Sorry about that. But anyway, so don't tell Ms. Cox. All right. So here's our problem. Here's our question, right? John researches the areas of baking and fermentation, tries to come up with a way to test his question, writes everything down basically. And then John talks with his teacher and she gives him an experimental design diagram to help him set up his investigation. Here's what that diagram might look like. Okay, so we've got a couple variables up here, independent variable, dependent variable, right? So he's going to kind of fill these things in here, comes up with a hypothesis. Notice that a hypothesis is an if-then statement. An if-then statement. We'll talk more about those if-then statements as we go. Has the independent variable here, that's basically the thing that you're testing and the thing that you allow to change. Let's see, got a little trial here, experimental design, talks about the dependent variable. That's what you're measuring. We can make a graph or a chart with that. We've got some constants, things you don't want to change down here. You want to keep those steady from experiment to experiment to experiment. But again, we'll talk about those as we go a little bit farther here. Okay, so here's our man John. Looks like he's doing math, but he's actually formulating a hypothesis. So his hypothesis, again, if then, if more sugar is added, then the bread will rise higher. We'll get a bigger loaf, right? So here's what he's changing, the sugar, and then the thing that's measured is how big the loaf of bread gets. Okay, so just definition of hypothesis there, an educated guess about the relationship between the independent and dependent variables. Basically, a hypothesis is an educated guess, not just a guess. We've got some information backing it up, right? So you have a little bit of an idea, but educated guess. Okay, so little prediction here, kind of going along with the hypothesis, kind of just things you're going to be looking at here. So if then, right, if more sugar is added, then the bread will rise higher because there is more food for fermentation. More food for the yeast means more carbon dioxide, bigger bubbles, bigger bread. All right, here's a man Einstein asking you the question there. Do you know the difference between the independent and dependent variables? Couple things filling on your note sheet as we go through these here, right? So independent variable, the independent or manipulated variable is the factor that you are testing, and this is the one and only variable that you are going to allow to change. So he is changing the amount of sugar, right? 25 grams, 50 grams, 100 grams, 250, right? So he's changing the amount of sugar that's used in the experiment. That's the independent variable, the thing that he is testing. Now, the dependent variable, this is what you're ultimately going to measure. So the responding variable, the dependent variable, the factor that does change, it's what you measure. So in John's case, it's how big our bread of loaf, our our loaf of bread is going to be, how big the loaf gets. Now, when you do an experiment, from trial to trial to trial, you want to make sure everything other than that independent variable is going to stay absolutely the same. And those are called constants. Okay, variables that you don't allow to change, they stay the same in every test. We want to make sure it's sugar, the changes in sugar, that's causing the change in the side of our loaf. Okay, so again, it's the factors the experimenter attempts to keep the same. Those are constants from trial to trial to trial. Again, our man Einstein, can you think of some constants for this experiment? Here's a few, right? Let's see. So, ingredients, oven used, right? You don't want to use different types of oven. The rise time, the brand of the ingredients, right? You don't want to use like a name brand flour for one and a store brand flour for another, okay? Cooking time, type of pan used, not metal and glass, same pan for everything. Try to get your air temperature, humidity, there's just tons of things that we have here, okay? Age of the yeast. All right. Now, every experiment, you should have a control group. That's what we compare things to, okay? So what we compare results to, normally it's basically without the independent variable, right? For the control group, now let's see, expose the same conditions as the experimental group except for the variable being tested. That's what I just told you guys, okay? And all experiment should have a control group. A little redundant there on that slide. Sorry about that. All right, here's the thing. Grandma in her recipe used 50 grams of sugar. So that's John's control. That's the basic thing that he's got. And then he's going to manipulate that independent variable, the amount of sugar, and try some different things. Okay, so 50 grams, original recipe. That's the control group. Okay, so then you come up to your experiment. We're going to come up with the procedure step by step, and people ought to be able to read your step by step and like replicate your experiment. And there it mentions control group again, how to determine the control group. Okay, so John writes out his procedure, materials list, writes it in his journal. Kind of looks like he's using a math journal there again. A little worried about our man John, actually. Let's see, checking for safety concerns. Yeah, don't chew on your pencil, John. That's a safety concern. Okay. Let's see, trials. Trials refer to replicate groups that are exposed to the same conditions in an experiment. So you keep all those constants the same and you just change the independent variable. Okay. Oh, excuse me. I told you wrong there. Okay. This is basically multiple trials using the same independent variable. So he's going to test 3 times each one of those amounts of sugar. All right. So collecting and analyzing results, we're going to have a table to record our data once the experiment is done. Eventually, you can probably graph these as well. So John goes and gets his materials together, carries out his experiment, hopefully doesn't chew too much off of his pencil while he's doing it, and here is the results that he gets. Notice that we did 3 separate trials, okay, with each amount of sugar. So here's our amounts of sugar, the independent variable, 25, 50, 100, 250, and 500, 3 trials. He averaged the size of the loaf in each of those, okay? It's the volume that he's using there, right? Length times width times height, measuring 3 lengths there, multiply them together, centimeters cubed would be a volume, okay? Notice the control group did the best. Grandma knew what she was doing, right? All right, control worked the best, but not that much better than 100 grams. So he rejects his hypothesis, and he's going to do a little bit further testing. He's going to specifically test between 50 and 100 to see if maybe there's some amount between those that could do even better. Okay, so again, redoes the whole experiment, but now he's focusing between 50 and 100. And here's his results. Okay, again, 3 trials, 1, 2, 3, of each of our amount of sugar. Take our individual trials, average the results, and which one's the best? Biggest number is right there. Okay, so that is 70 grams. A little bit better than what Grandma's recipe had, right? So 70 is just a little bit better. Let's see. So he accepts his hypothesis here. He found that 70 grams of sugar produces the largest loaf, and so I guess he can do a little bit better a little bit better recipe than what his grandma did there, right? Now, just some terminology here. If you take a look, oh gosh, about halfway through your notes, some of these terms, quantitative data. This is what John was using, right? Because he was measuring stuff, right? Data that uses numbers to describe your information. Okay, qualitative data, he wasn't really using it so much, but if he's looking at something like the color of the bread or the smell of the bread, that's the type of things that you're looking for qualitative data. Okay, did make some observations. Basically, he was measuring things. Okay, so he saw how big the bread was. So something you see, hear, taste, smell, or touch, those are observations. And then assumption, that's just, kind of something you decide after you make an observation, but you really haven't done an experiment on it. So lots of times our assumptions end up being wrong until we necessarily get some data to support an assumption. So I guess it's not necessarily wrong, but if you don't have anything to back it up with, it's just kind of out there, Let's see, and then finally, a scientific theory. This is kind of our goal when we do scientific experiments, is to get tons and tons of experimentally proven results. Okay, so well-tested set of ideas that have been experimentally proven. We put all of these together, and then we get some of those big ideas in science, right? Like the theory of gravity. We'll talk a little bit about the theory of evolution later on this year. The Big Bang theory is a big one, kind of talking about the universe and how things go together there. So lots of theories in science. We use the terminology a little bit different in science than we use in just kind of normal conversation. Lots of times in normal conversation, we think of theory as a guess, and really that's a hypothesis for science, right? When you hear theory in science, that's kind of like the answer. That's our big thing that we're looking for here. Okay, so big takeaways from this, guys, right? Independent variable versus dependent variable. Remember, independent is the one that you're actually testing. Dependent is the one that you are measuring. Remember, all experiments should have a control group. That's what you're comparing your results to. And then between all your groups, you want to make sure that you keep variables constant. All right? And then, of course, just the scientific method in general. All right, hey, that's our first go-through for some notes. Hopefully my first attempt at a screencast was okay for you guys. We'll probably do quite a few of these this year, so fill out the notes on this. Feel free to go back through it as much as you need to, and There you go. Have a good day, guys.